The inspiration for this film came a long time ago. I was out in the desert camping, and it was all the outback. It was the most incredible trip, and it drew me more to the Aboriginal presence of this country because it wasn't some abstract thing. It was very concrete, and that's when it really crystallized the power of the land. And I realized I had to try and make a film utilizing the landscape and involving that world, the real Australia, basically. I was thinking of an Australian take on the Western because it's there's a lot of similar parallels of a wild frontier.
Do you pray, Mr. Lamb?
The epic landscape.
My brother, John.
The outlaws.
Stand back!
The indigenous population, a nation built on extreme conflict. All those kinds of ingredients.
Go on.
In many ways, much more extreme than the American West at that time.
So the cloud that started to grow. The difference with America and Australia, I kind of guess, people went to America because they were running away from something. People came to Australia because they were forced to come here.
What's interesting about seeing the British Empire taking its cultural superiority and putting it in a place like outback Australia, where suddenly their clothes, their manners, their codes of conduct are so at odds with their environment that it kills them and it fails miserably.
Given the harshness of the environment and the complete contrast to anything the Europeans had experienced, it was kind of inevitable.
Back in the 19th century, a huge proportion of the people who died were in their early 20s, and it gives you some idea of exactly what people had to deal with during those times. It's a very harsh, rugged landscape, a lot for people to overcome, and this particular part of Australia has had a very violent and bloody history.
Film set in 1880, there were many people who were drinking themselves silly and expiring out in the heat, and we're also trying to sort of maintain some kind of English or Irish ideal, building these houses with these lovely little sort of, grassy green gardens were plonked in the middle of the desert that they were desperately trying to keep looking like Dorset or something or other.
The outback is quite different. It is so vast. You feel as though this is a kind of eternity. And I'm quite sure that the original pioneers must have felt that too.
I'd always been talking to Nick Cave about the music because Nick and I go way back, and we started talking about the story, and I knew Nick from his music has a real gift with words, and he's got a gift with storytelling because a lot of his music has bizarre characters, very vivid imagery.
Eventually Johnny asked me to write the film as well, which seemed to me kind of a terrifying thing to do, to have to sit down and write a film script, because I didn't feel I had much understanding of dialogue. I knew I could work out a story easy enough. I'm basically a narrative kind of songwriter, and telling stories is what I do. But once I started writing it myself, writing the story down, I just felt, I just started to write scene 1 and then scene 2, and it just became this kind of joy to write the whole thing.
Sure is pretty.
You can never get your fill of nature, Samuel. To be surrounded by it is to be stilled. It salves the heart. The mountains, the trees, the endless plains, the moon, the myriad of stars. Every man can be made quiet and complete. Even the lowliest misanthrope or the most wretched of sinners.
In a way, he's sort of, I think, follows in the tradition of sort of Banjo Paterson and people like that. teller of tales and things like that. And that's, you know, I think that's what drew everyone to this project, is this incredibly fascinating literary script.
Characters are not delineated in as far as there's good and there's bad. They're all the good guys are bad and the bad guys are good.
They're Irish brothers. They're survivors in a sense. To me, they're like kind of animals in a cage that have authority to battle against, as well as the elements. Charlie's, you know, he's put in this awful situation of basically having to choose one brother over another one. He's really sort of forced into the heart of darkness. He's really forced to question what's valuable, what's valid, what love and respect and relationships within a sort of family environment mean.
We have this theory that they married for love, and that Martha married beneath her, a bit of rough, and it was very, very romantic and exciting, but their sort of, the family punishment was that they got...
Or embarrassment.
A bit of an embarrassment, so they get shipped to the other side of the world.
Stanley came here thinking that, you know, I can change this place. I can civilise this place, this area, these people. And I will do it. And with, you know, the best will of the world of the British Empire, it's with the fist of iron, you know.
It's a big, epic type film with lots of action and guns and horses and blah, and we've got this little kind of crucible of it's a two-hander in the middle of it, in this sort of Chekhovian house in the middle of the outback.
Ray and Emily brought something really nice to their relationship in the way that was played. You know, real tenderness I was really pleased about. Because it's a difficult place for basic human tenderness to survive. And in the circumstances of what's going on in this film, it's particularly poignant because of that.
When said the moon to the stars in the sky? Soon said the wind that followed him home.
It's a harsh environment. It's a different time. Violence is a part of his life. He's not just some criminal running around brandishing a gun and killing people haphazardly. He's quite pointed, and he kills with purpose. He's very moral. He has a strong code, internal code, and a strong sense of family. If you're a cop or if you're English, well then he'll murder you.
I play a character called Jelon Lamb, who, in short, is a bounty hunter. He's from the old country. Whether he is exactly what he pretends to be is another thing, or whether he is a personal invention. I rather suspect that he's a personal invention, but he invented himself so long ago that he's almost made it a reality. The character was superbly written, marvelously written. In fact, you know you've got a good character when everybody else said, "Oh, what are you playing?" And you'd say, "Jelon Lamb," and they'd say, "Oh yeah, that's the part that I wanted to play."
I play Eden Fletcher in The Proposition, and in a nutshell, I suppose Eden is the money and the power of the town within the film. He essentially owns the town, and it's a decision that that Eden Fletcher makes within the film that certainly makes everything spiral in one particular direction.
He's a very tormented child. He's a victim of circumstance, if you will. He's only 14, and he's quite simple for his age. He hasn't had the benefits of education, and he's a really simple, sweet boy. Yet he made a mistake, and that mistake is living in his mind and tormenting him. And it will until the day, you know, he dies.
Oh, Peggy Gordon, you are my darling. Samuel Stoat is he's a sociopath. I kind of hope that he'll have two sides, you know, like you'll see this really innocent side that has not been nurtured, and therefore he's become a psychopath through the influence of the wrong people. And I kind of imagined that, you know, something hideous had happened to him when he was a kid, and when he was a very small kid, and he just kind of created this bad seed, you know, and I thought that he might have killed his parents, actually.
To Bob, well, I really enjoyed this character. I really find that he didn't have to promote himself. I'm here, I'm making an Aboriginal statement. He was in there with his badge. A great piece of writing. It's been a long time since Thomas Keneally.
Setting a film in the actual location where it takes place is vital in this particular film, because the landscape plays such a big role. It's such an enormous character for the piece.
John Hillcoat was very specific about what he actually wanted, which was he wanted something which was very desolate, and to actually achieve that, it meant going right out into the outback.
The heat sends people insane, you know. But then again, it's helped with the making of the film, in a way, for the characters you're playing, because you are playing that heat, and that dictates the pace of the film for you.
When we first got up here, from Melbourne, it was like 15 degrees when I left, and we got here, it was 45 degrees the first day. And so that week, you're just kind of walking around, you know, thinking that you're in some other planet.
I went to Dubai before I came here to get used to the climate, you know, to try and acclimatise a little bit. And that's a desert, and that still doesn't get you ready for this place.
Australia. What fresh hell is this?
It's been up to, you know, in the early 50s, when that does feel like you're being cooked from the inside, or you're standing next to a house that's on fire and that you can't get away.
Some scenes we've done where the wind's whipped up and huge dust storms have come through, which, I don't know, you see the rushes and it looks incredible. It's like special effects teams off to the side with some massive band, but it's real.
Throughout the shoot, we experienced extreme weather, from high heat to dust storms, right through to very extreme rain.
It hasn't rained for 8 months because we live in a semi-desert, and so usually when it rains like this, everyone's out dancing in it and yahooing, and it's so good to see. You know, rain's the stuff of life.
I think we were there for 2 months, and we had no choice. We couldn't escape this, you know. And we were always, you know, in a way worried just to have, you know, like a storm or a dust storm or all these kind of things.
We just got to put up with a little bit of mud, but that's all right. Yeah, it's not that much of a rain. It'll dry in a couple of hours once it stops raining. It's like another couple of months and we'll get the big downpours and then you're not going nowhere for a month.
I think it takes a certain resilience to be a film director.
John's very aware and very perceptive and very sensitive, but there's just no question about what it is that he wants.
I mean, I think the way he worked with the actors also was for me very inspiring because he's so sweet with everyone. I mean, I think it's a violent story made by a very sweet man, I think.
Very straightforward, no kind of bullshit, no histrionics. He's never raised his voice, he's never lost his temper.
You didn't have to struggle for it or look for it, and you didn't have to push it hard. You just enjoyed the ride with it, and trusted John to guide you. I've enjoyed working with John as a director immensely, I must say. He knows exactly what he wants. He's on the other hand, he's a good listener. He's gives the kind of notes that I like things like, yes, well, that's going in the right direction. I'd love it to be quicker. I think we felt that we were on the same page from the beginning.
Yes, exactly. You know, when you give ideas, you didn't feel stupid. You didn't feel like you was imposing what your ideas were on the movie. You felt like you was offering something.
You know that scene where you sit down?
Yeah. In the mud. Yeah. I can't roll about there.
Oh, so the cloud had started to cry. We came in, we saw each other and clicked at a personal level and at a professional level.
We all had a great sense of camaraderie, I guess, on the film.
Cheers.
Yeah, they're on film, yeah. Excuse me, we're talking. It's a very private conversation.
I mean, really, that's how I derive a lot of joy in my life, is to work on things that I believe are worthy.
To work on a project that Nick Cave has written is certainly special. Working with John has been wonderful, and the cast, you know, the cast has been absolutely first rate, and it's been truly a pleasure all around.
At first, when I found out I got the part, I got quite intimidated, and I thought, oh God, how am I going to be able to act with these amazing actors? I was quite scared, but once you rock up and you work with them, they just give you so much, and I think I've done some of my best work on this film, you know, because of the people that I'm working with.
Scene where he gets whipped, young Richard, and just the noise of what he was making was bang on the money, and you didn't have to do anything else because he was doing it for you, you know. And that's when you get the vibe, and you look at a crew all standing around, holding the lamps and all that, and they're like that. They're the boys that go to pictures. They're the boys who watch films being made all the time, not us being arty, you know, and going, what did you think of that? It was a marvellous scene. And, you know, it's the boy with strides sort of over his arse, hanging on to the light, you know, who sees the films. There's no bullshit with them, you know, they know.
Yeah, great time. A lot of beautiful things happen. Even this whole town. This project had brought a lot of people together. Some places in Australia, Aborigines and whitefellas don't mix together as much, but when you get a film crew that comes in, well, we've changed this town around, and that's a big bonus for us.
The Aboriginal community here, they've been real allies, and they were fantastic in terms of helping clarify issues for us and talking to the cast and actually clearing these very, very sensitive locations.
We have an Indigenous land usage agreement, and say we were to go and film over here, well, it just needs to be inspected to make sure we're not damaging anything for the future. Any significant discoveries are recorded, and hopefully down the track someone gets to study them, an anthropologist or something. And it's just basically recognising that people were here before us.
There are times when I felt I was being a little bit too harsh by reducing the set to a very small radius, but that did not disturb anyone. That did not, like, everybody just got in, they still worked within the confined area. I find that absolutely marvellous that they could do such a thing. And I'm talking about a 10-metre radius in some areas, in high-density areas of cultural heritage.
You know, those little things that really is important in an Aboriginal community was taken notice of. And it's great that you have people now respecting our world. You know what I mean? That's a big issue in this country.
When the first white men came to Australia and they got all the black fellas, and, you know, some that lock them up, some that take them in bush ranges, some that taught them in a horse, and all that, some they keep them in work and labor, like in the farms and all that things. So, you know, Proposition's story is a true story about the white people and the black people.
It's simple, Captain. It's called the law of reciprocity. Kill one of them, and they're going to kill one of ours. Do the job I brought you here to do. If you have to kill one, make sure you bloody well kill them all.
You know, genocide was practiced in certain areas, and that's a fact of life then. If you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, well, you didn't live very long. In certain areas, people were wiped out. They were hunted out. And that hasn't been recognised by a lot of people. They don't realise that. In other areas, you know, there was some ongoing association, and, you know, it wasn't so bad. It just depends on where you lived and who wanted to live there as well, basically.
There are lots of stories in the country, yeah, that white people and black people have worked together for a long time. And that's the way how this country started. A lot of people in the wilderness out here have brought up by Aboriginal milk.
Fella in the picture, he live in a cave. Dog man. Big fella. He's a dog man, never sleep. He sit there all day. Sit down in a cave. Way up. He live with small fella and black fella.
There is this sense of spirituality about the piece, where you feel that the sun, the moon, the stars are kind of turning on their axis around this world at this particular period in time, and it's in a way almost religious. They're somewhat doomed, all of them.
Good men in the wrong situations, and the consequence of that, everything's spiralling out of control. What I hope the film generates at the end are periods of intense violence followed by periods of sadness and longing, and to me that's something that's reflected in Australia and the Australian outback.
It's a story that needed to be told, basically, a portrayal of reality as fiction. And it's good to see that someone's finally had the balls to come out and make a film about how the West was won.
When said the moon to the stars in the sky? Soon said the wind that followed him out.
I find it a little bit difficult to compliment the crew or the actors until the film is finished, because I don't want to jinx anything. And it reminds me of of a story that Lauren Bacall told me about my father, where on Treasure of the Sierra Madre, he spoke to Humphrey Bogart, and he said, "Bogey, I think we're making something very special here." And Bogart said, "Oh, shut up, John. This is just a Western."
Said the moon to the stars in the sky. Soon said the wind that followed him home. Who said the cloud that started to cry? Me said the rider as dry as a bone. How said the sun that melted the ground? Why said the river that refused to run? Where said the thunder without a sound? It's here, said the rider, took up his gun.